Hello, friends. We are excited to be back with you once again. For those who have been with us for many years, I'm sure you will all recognize Mr. Matthew Geiger, of course, the owner of VERITY Metals. And Matt and I have been doing videos. Matt, can you believe it? Since December 20th of 2022. That was when we did our very first Points to Ponder episode.
I remember.
Right. And Matt actually went and put that on Telegram just so people could be reminded about what we were speaking about. Matt, can you hear all of that in the background by any chance?
A little bit, but it's okay.
Okay,
you know,
okay.
I got dogs around me, so you might hear some barking too. So we'll just keep it nice and off the cuff and informal. That's how we always work best.
I have no control over the people working on the yard. It's out of my control.
It seems like the landscapers will always come when I have like a really important call. You know, then the landscapers show up, and I'm just like, ugh, you know. But it's all good. I don't think the audience, really minds too much.
Yeah, it's life, right? Hey,
it's
Matt,
life.
I want to do something special. And I haven't shared this with you yet, but of course we're doing the Nugget Report. We had done a few episodes prior to this over the years. We had Juan O'Savin on a couple of times. We had Tina on one time with Juan, but we really didn't do that many episodes. But going forward, what we're going to do is we're going to continue on with the Nugget Report. And of course, it has a tie-in to what's happening with the precious metals right now, right? But I want to be able to bring, because I've been through a lot over the last couple of years, right? The last time I did a video was in June, if you can believe it, 7 months ago. And it was part one of the Fight Back journey. And I will do another part to that to get more in detail in terms of my health issues, because I don't like to bring kind of my health issues into these more historical videos. But I did want to, something I've learned through this whole process, right? Because I've been off the radar for a year and a half. There's been a couple of times where I literally came close to death, okay? But of course, many of the friends know I have a very strong relationship with God. And so I feel like part of this journey going forward, Matt, is that I want to bring in an eternal nugget in each of our episodes, okay? If you don't mind me doing that. And I would like to open up with that because I want God to be front and center. But this is the word that we have for today. And I'm going to put the graphic on the screen as I read this. And it's Psalm 119:72. The law of thy mouth is better unto me than thousands of gold and silver. Now, of course, in terms of the earthly perspective and what we've been highlighting, it's very important, especially now with everything going as crazy as it is, for us to be able to hedge in our wealth and protect our wealth, you know, in terms of the dollars, quote unquote, that we have. And so part of that obviously is the gold and the silver, right? It's universally recognized as money all over the world. But I just want to kind of, again, remind people that the eternal treasure, the eternal gold and silver is God himself, and having that intimate relationship with the Father through Jesus Christ. So that is the gold nugget for today. And I just want to really encourage people to really hone into God, especially now during these times where everything is upside down, and get some of that discernment and just listen closely to what the Holy Spirit is leading you to do, both in terms of a wider range of topics, but specifically with what we're going to be talking about in today's Nugget Report. How does that sound?
Well, if I just may also say, you know, it's great to be back, and it's great to see you and see Greg and, you know, be doing this. I totally agree with you. I think what this country's been lacking, it's like, you know, here I am working with people's money. And, you know, when I look at it and I reflect on life and where we're at in this moment in time,
right? It's
like money isn't everything. You know, this country lacks morals. This country lacks a lot of decency. I mean, you see people just, you know, it's this vanity culture of everybody just, you know, it's this self-centered, greedy world that we live in. Right. And really, I think the only answer to get out of this is with God, right? Yeah. That's what everybody really needs to come to. That's really the only solution. That's the only thing that's going to bring morality back. And I think that's going to be a huge task, because you see just how far off people in this country and around the world, for that matter, have become. People, you see this stuff on TV, whatever. It's disgusting. It makes me sick. And I hope people can start doing the right thing and just trying to live, all of us, including myself, live better and more quality lives.
Totally agree. Totally agree. So let's go ahead and dive into the craziness that's specifically your world, day in and day out. Tell us a little bit of the background of what you're seeing that's changed, even since we started that first points to ponder. Like, what is going on right now? What's your take on it? How do you view everything?
Well, in some of the first episodes we ever did, I want to point out that we talked about a video of the FDIC in a smoky room talking about, Alex Jones from InfoWars had the video on his website. I wonder if we could locate that and play that maybe on a future episode just to remind people. But they were talking, if you remember, in that meeting about covering up the banking signals so that people wouldn't know that what was happening in the banks was an absolute disaster. We then, as we moved into 2023, we started to notice that, hey, these little banks, it was the, what were they called, Kelly? The one in California, then we saw one up
Silicon Valley Bank.
Yeah, so Silicon Valley Bank. Right? There's been since then. There's been hundreds of banks, and it hasn't made any news, right? And Biden, if you remember, Biden was still president at that time. Biden. So here we are today, and we haven't heard anything in the financial system, right? There's been no talk of anything. And I think that there's a lot more going on behind the scenes. And I think what I've learned since then is that they're not going to tell us anything. They're going to pick, as we've always said, they're going to pick a day and time of their choosing to pull the plug on this thing.
Right.
And I think we're getting very close to that, because what I've always noticed, and something I observed when we first started working together, is that you have these political events, right? This exposure process, and that coincides with the banking system. So as we started seeing all this, fraud, for example, coming out in Minnesota, we then noticed that, okay, it's Minnesota's bad, but Ohio turned out to be worse. And then we looked over in Massachusetts and New York and New Jersey. It was even worse over there. This is going to wind up being hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars of fraud. And I think what I've learned this whole time is that our system is a fraud. It's just completely based on fraud. And here we are, sitting at what, 100 and some odd dollars silver and what, 5,000 plus gold.
Yeah.
We're just getting started. We haven't even seen the real banking crisis yet. But I also do think that President Trump is handling a lot of this behind the scenes. I think that it's not in the white hat's interests to put this on display, right? He wants to cover it up too, so that he can accomplish his agenda behind the scenes. The deep state, right? They're going to try to create as much chaos as possible so that they can avoid arrests and the focus being on them. So here we are, and I think we're getting close to, some type of, false flag, whatever you want to call it. I think we're getting very close, and of course that will then again push up precious metals prices exponentially once again.
It's already happening. Remember, Matt, we always had brought in the one graphic, right, with DJT coming down the golden. You know how he always says the golden escalator. He's always highlighting gold, right? And right behind them was the sign that said currency exchange. All right. This is back in 2015. Okay. So we saw those communications. We've been highlighting it for years. And I do believe that this is not a rally. This is the absolute reset of the monetary system. What we're seeing is the slow-mo destruction of the fiat system. Okay. The deep state, the banks, they're trapped. They're literally being taken down right now. And I agree with you. I think this is the Q team behind the scenes, because maybe a lot of our viewers, I don't know if people have been kind of catching the Asian guy, right, on these videos. He has all these different channels, but he's educating people. Like, he's really giving us, what do I want to say, the nuggets behind why we're seeing the silver and gold skyrocket, and why it's not just a rally, right? When we've had these other rallies in the past, like with the Hunt brothers, etc. This is a real reset, and they give the examples because of industrial, for instance, demand. We need silver for EV vehicles. We need silver for solar panels. We need silver for more of the AI, the advanced technology, these big, huge data centers. And so these videos have been very educational, okay? And this guy just popped up from nowhere, and then you start seeing it all over the internet. And I actually am going to share with you a little bit later, whenever we feel it's probably a good time to do it, is I'm going to show you the Q team communicating in these videos. I watched two guys. One's called the Asian guy, AG. What's AG, Matt?
Silver.
Right? And then John, Jon, AG, John, and then Long John Silver. And if you'll remember, we're going to play it at the end of this video, Tab had a rap where in the middle of, the lyrics that he printed out, he starts talking about Long John Silver and the future ain't bleak. And it's like he knew this whole silver thing was going to happen. And then, of course, we had a DJT and Melania show up on New Year's Eve, right, to the William Tell. Think of the double meaning there, tell, they're kind of communicating. And she's in the silver dress, and it's the William Tell Overture. And that was the same music that the Lone Ranger used for the old show back in the 50s and 60s. And the name of the horse was Hi-Yo Silver. That was kind of their little tagline in the show. So here's Melania. Remember, she's the semaphore flag, right? DJT uses her as a flag to tell you what's going on. So Hi-Yo Silver, like silver's going to the moon. Silver's going up. Melania's in silver. So they are telling us exactly what's happening. And I believe that they're wanting regular Americans who may not understand the stock market. I've never invested in stocks and stuff. I never kind of had my eyes in that direction. But
Nor has Trump.
What's that?
Nor has Trump.
He hasn't invested in the stock market?
Nope.
Because it's rigged. It's so rigged. But the thing is these videos, they're so educational. The two that I watch, they're never pushing a company or, to know deeper stuff, you got to join my premium channel and you got to do this. No, these are educational videos for regular Americans to jump on board of this great wealth transfer. And that's what's happening. It's moving over to gold and silver. Remember, Matt, we used to talk, I used to say it was like the olden days in the Western movies where they go and, throw a gold nugget on the counter in the bar. They pay for their room and board or pay for drinks for everybody. It'd be a little gold nugget.
Absolutely. Yeah, we got to go back to those days. That's when we had some sensible ideas about how money worked, and we've really veered away from that. So here we are returning. We're bringing it back.
We are, and it's this is a time where you and I get to say a little bit. We did tell you so, and in fact, some of our friends who jumped on board way back then in 2022. Do you know, Matt, that the silver was going between $22 and $24 an ounce? And the gold was $18.23 at that point. Okay. And there were people, as we were continuing to do these videos, you can attest to this without using any names, that they literally took hundreds of thousands of their wealth and they saw the bigger picture and they transferred it over into these hard assets. And what's happened to their accounts since then, Matt?
I would say they've doubled and tripled. I've gotten several phone calls from a lot of phone calls from those people. And I mean, their jaws are dropping in terms of what their account values are. But I would say, it's hang in there. I think we're just getting started, for people that are, it was tough at the time because no one really knew what happened. No one knew what was going to happen. It was very tough. And plus, you had silver kind of sitting there for years at these same levels, obviously through manipulation, same thing with gold. So really, to the average person, they're looking at it, they're like, oh, this stuff, stuff's just sitting there. It's not making me any money. But I think what we knew at that time, and your audience knew at that time, because I think we feel it instinctually. I think we feel it in our gut, is that we knew something big was coming.
Yeah.
So that wait time, it really paid off. So now they're both positioned very well. They don't have to think about anything. Their accounts have doubled, tripled, maybe even in some cases quadrupled. And we got a long way to go. So I just want to talk to the people that are still maybe on the sidelines who did it. Maybe they felt like, hey, I should have pulled the trigger, man, darn it, I missed the boat. you have not missed the boat at all. If you listen to the recent Juan interview with Nino a couple days ago, Juan's talking about $450 silver by the end of the year.
Oh, sure. Easily.
Okay, and getting as high as 1,000 very, very soon after that. So
Sure.
believe me, no one's missed any boat here.
That is absolutely true. In those videos, you know, the ones that I'll give the 2 links in the description. And again, I'm going to show you where the Q team, I believe, is communicating. But even though it's 110, and I think they took a little bit of a dive the other day, but again, they're going to do that. The banks are going to flood with the paper, right? The paper derivatives, etc., and it kind of brings the silver price down. They're trying to crush it, but this is not a typical rally. That's the whole point. And these videos point out all the different factors to prove it's not just a manipulated rally like the Hunt brothers or whatever. This is just going to continue to go. So right now, and they even say in these videos, look, don't look at the price. Don't look at 117 and think, oh my God, it's too much. It's too expensive. No, relatively speaking, when this keeps going up and shooting up in terms of the velocity, and it's going to be very volatile, right? 117 is going to be nothing. Okay. It's going to look like the $22, you know, when you go ahead a couple years,
Exactly.
it's going to look like that. So that's what these videos are stressing too. They're stressing urgency. So people get the urgency because they don't want people just to sit and kind of think like what you're saying, like thinking about how these rallies, you know, what happened last time. Because again, it's not a rally, but they want people, there's urgency. So they want people to step out and to start getting the physical asset in their hands. Okay. And so they're educating in terms of that. And so it's a great starting point. If you didn't get in, you know, 3 years ago, too bad, you know, buy it now. I actually went and bought some, right, Matt? I went connected with you, and I think it was January, I want to say January 12th. It was a couple of days before the mint went and revalued what silver was. And I think I got all in, Matt, really cheap, like in the 90s, right? And then it shot up, and of course it just continues to shoot up. But you know, that might seem expensive compared to $22, but $90, like 3 years from now, it's going to be nothing. Okay. So that's the message is it may seem expensive, but go ahead and dive in. And even if you can only do a couple of coins at a time. Matt, are you turning people away if they only want to, you know, grab a coin or two?
Never. We do have a minimum for IRAs just because, you know, I pay a back office to do a lot of, you know, paperwork and correspondence and things like that. So, you know, and our fees are very, you know, are nominal. You know, our commissions are tiny. That's what I really love is that I get to serve the Patriot community and do it at a total discount. You know, you go to these clowns out of Los Angeles, these call centers, these guys are going to charge you an absolute fortune. It should be illegal what these people do. No, I'm going to do a fabulous job. And, you know, I want to make sure that anybody on any budget can obtain the stuff. We actually, and we'll probably just announce it here. It's not operational yet. I just met with my developers yesterday afternoon, but we're going to have an online store. So if you just want to pick up a couple coins, go to veritymetals.com, scroll down, you're going to see the store, right? We're going to have a lot of the recommended products, all the stuff that people really, you know, I would recommend people buying, whether it be, you know, silver American Eagles, which tend to be slightly more in the high end, you know, you pay a little bit more of a premium, and then just like, you know, basic bars, basic rounds. So if you want something just a little bit cheaper, closer to spot price, you'll have access to all of it. You know, you want 100-ounce bars, we're going to have 100-ounce bars there. Kilo bar, you know, whatever it is, we're going to have it all. And that should be operational probably within the week to week and a half.
That is so awesome. And again, if people are kind of hesitant, I'm going to encourage you to go, and I'm going to share right now. I think it's a good time for me to share these couple of graphics. Man, it's just so funny. It's so obvious Q's behind this. Okay, it just is. I'm going to put it out there right here, right now. This is part of the plan. This is part of the great wealth transfer to get it into regular, ordinary Americans' pockets. Okay, but you do have to do something. You can't just wait on the sidelines, because here's the issue. And Matt, again, we were saying this years ago. There's going to be a point where it's not going to be, oh, you know, it's too expensive. The point is going to be we can't get it. Okay?
The ability to get it. Exactly. We've said that for years.
Yeah.
We said, and if I may just add this about the website, this is also an important factor is I've been going on a lot of the other websites of, you know, some of these online gold companies where a lot of people go to, you know, APMEX, JM Bullion, great companies, nothing, you know, absolutely great company, totally legit. I think the world of them. But what was crazy is I couldn't even load up their website. So the beauty is that because I'm kind of smaller, you'll be able to go onto my site and, you'll be able to get on and make an up to the second purchase at whatever price you want to go at, because I'm not I'm not this huge company, and you'll be able to get onto my servers and my website and be able to catch a price and not have, the lag or delay or the website goes down. So that's, I'm kind of an advantage to anybody out there that knows of me, because, you'll be able to get through and be able to take advantage of there's some big uptick in price and everybody wants to get in. You'll actually be able to get on my site and be able to do it.
Right. And also the wholesaler, whoever you're attached to, they actually will be the ones that send it out. So, it's a real seamless one-stop shop, I guess,
Yep.
especially with the lower amounts of silver. But like, for instance, with what my order I did, it was supposed to be here yesterday, but because of the ice storm, it's still stuck in New York. But if I didn't have the ice storm, I would have had it. And that literally was like, what, a 2-week turnaround. It ended up, I immediately bought it from you. You locked in the price. You went to your wholesaler, whoever you work with. And, and then they took a couple of days to, package it, whatever, and send it. So it's been en route, and, I'm going to have that in my hands. That's my thing. It's just like, I want this stuff in my hands. I can't wait to get it in my hands because, and again, even if you start out slowly, you start off with a couple of coins and you just keep building. And I know there's a friend of ours, I'm not going to name her name, but she told me probably 2 years ago that she would, every once in a while, because she works part-time, she would go to you and she would order a couple of coins at a time. Yep. So now just fast forward that and think how many coins she's gotten, over the last couple of years. And again, a cheaper price, but it's all good. So Matt, let me, so this is a cute team. All right. Let me kind of introduce the Asian guy. He has this Van Gogh art in the back of him as he's speaking, okay? And he'll have numbers like on, big, huge numbers behind him. He'll have, and when I think of the Van Gogh, I think of Vincent Van Gogh. We kind of brought that up in one of the foundational videos. And we have a Vincent who likes to go around in his van, Vincent Fusca, who made that connection years ago. So there's a little bit of a JFK Jr. tie-in right there, but it has all the Van Gogh art behind it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly go through these graphics and I'm going to put them on the full screen, Matt. So we're going to quickly just go through and I'm going to show you how the Q team, again, with the timestamps, right? That's how Q communicates. That's what I've been decoding for years, all right, way even before the points to ponder. So let's go ahead and dive into it. And this is the Asian guy account. And the first video that I commented on, it's at the top of the video. I was one of the first people to get in. And what I want to do is just read the highlighted parts to you. So I said, hold, new system coming. And, Eat My Oats has said to me, before a new system, there's always anarchy, even war. If you're only focused on silver, then people are watching you. Apex predator won't play nice. And I responded to them, in my opinion, white hat military behind these videos to educate recipients of the wealth transfer that is happening in real time. This is a new era, and DJT told us about the currency exchange when he came down the golden escalator way back in 2015. Look at the sign behind them before they started down the escalator. Melania on New Year's Eve with the silver dress, and both of them arriving to the William Tell, double meaning regarding Tell, over tour. Same one the Lone Ranger used, high yo silver. And then I said, so yeah, Apex doesn't faze me in the slightest. Okay, that was on his video. Okay, the very next video after I made that comment, here's our Mr. Van Gogh with his, artwork in the back, and he has this huge 2846. That's the transition. Okay, we're doing a new system. We're going to a new system. That's what I mentioned. We're making a transition. Okay, and so what we're going to do is we're going to go to Q drop 2846. Like, why put that number up there? It's not related to gold at that point. It's not related to silver. He just has these random numbers put behind him, right? That's the transition. So what I did is I went to that Q drop, and if you notice also the 11:41 timestamp when this graphic, this number was put into the video. So let's go to the 28:46 first. And if you notice in this graphic from this movie clip, it says Q, who the hell's Q? Now think about it. The theory is that Q team is doing these videos, okay? Now, when you go to the 11:41 Q drop, and this is actually underlined in the Q drop over on the website where you can get all the drops. If you notice the misspelling, quote unquote, of course, misspellings are purposeful, right? Q's told us that. It's me, meme, and members, right? So the me and the members should have had a space between it, but there's two ways to read it, as meme, and that's what we're going to concentrate on, and me. And in this case, the me is who the hell is Q from the last Q drop, right? With the 28:46 at the top of this guy's right behind him. Who the hell is Q? Me. In other words, these videos. Me, the Q team's behind it, okay? So keep the meme angle, okay, in your mind. So the very next video, here he is again with this 24:28, random number, right? No, it's not. And it was on January 24th. So there's our 124. What's that Q drop? The 321, right? The plus signs, death certificate with JFK Jr. And of course, it's Tav's cover, right? That's part of his cover in terms of his handle. But if you look at the N and the W, we have attached both the N, number 14, the 14th missing ballot piece, right? We've talked about that for years. The official John F. Kennedy Jr. account had the extra N in it, right? So we've been tying that to him for years. And then, of course, the W in terms of Juan O'Savin. Before he was Juan O'Savin, he was W. And it's the 23, it's the pain, okay? And then we have the 24, which is the X. Has to do with President Kennedy's limo. And, of course, Tav, you know, with the solar eclipse with the X. I did a whole series on that. Okay, so those are all junior connectors right there. Now, what are we going to do? We're going to go to the 24:28 Q drop. And remember, this is the very next video after the prior one. All right, and here we go. Read it. Memes, now front and center. There's our Q reference. And is that a coincidence? No, I think that's purposeful. And notice also the ME as well. Okay, so it ties into the prior video. Who's behind these videos? Who the hell is Q? Me. These videos are me, the Q team. That's the way I read it. So good. Okay, so then the very next video, he's talking about the miners. And there you go. We have chasing meme stocks. Okay, so that was the very next one. So he's bringing the meme back into it. And of course, notice the misspellings. And that's where we first got it, right? With the Rose Garden, he had the me and the members together, right? Misspellings matter, all right? So there's a beautiful tie-in in 3 consecutive videos with these random numbers behind this guy in the Van Gogh art, okay? This is the Q team. That's my gut. That's my theory. It's the Q team putting these videos together. So I want to really encourage you, if you have any questions and to really understand what's going on, go to these links, look at some of these videos, and understand what they're doing and what they're explaining. And I think most people will kind of go, aha, if they're not familiar with the stock market or with why this is not just a rally. I think you're going to be pretty amazed in terms of what they bring to you, you know, the logic behind it. So hopefully, you know, if you have any questions or any hesitation, go watch a couple of these videos and then give Matt a call. And Matt, we have 2 numbers on the screen. We have the one scrolling on the bottom, which of course is the main line, you know, the landline, I guess, to your office. But the number that's next to you is actually one of your phones. And so if people want to send a text, whether if they want to call or if they want to send a text, they can get to you directly. And of course, friends, when you call, if you call, hopefully people will jump on board and get their assets converted over. Let Matt, let whoever answers the phone know that you saw the Nugget report so that I can obviously, get credit for it. Right, Matt? Isn't that what we're doing?
Exactly right. I would definitely tell people, call the 480-717-9081, because you can text me. And with, all the calls I've been getting over the last couple of weeks, obviously because of the uptick in price, it just allows me to organize myself a little bit better. And I'm usually able to get to you within, could be 5 minutes, could be within the hour, but just makes it a little bit easier for me because of just the influx in, calls. And I want to take my time with everybody. I always love talking to your audience. And, if you remember, I started on the other side of this. I was one of your audience and we got to know each other. I sent you a survival guide to the future. And, I've been donating for years.
Yep.
And it's, I couldn't believe it's like, hey, I'm working with Kelly Ann. It's awesome. So just remember, I'm just like everybody else in the audience. I've been watching these videos because, when I woke up and started seeing these Q posts, I didn't understand it. I needed to defer to somebody smarter than me, meaning you, Kelly. And, that's when I started watching your show, probably in 2018.
Something like that. You did. You corresponded. You would also give me, buy the links and, support us financially. You give us nice support there above and beyond. And we've always been thankful for that. I call you the gift guy, right?
Yeah.
Matt, that gold you gave me in Arkansas, right? I don't know what it was at that point. Maybe it was, maybe 2,500 at that point.
Not even.
Yeah. Now it's over 5K, right?
Yeah. You probably pay about 5,300 right now for one of those. It's great. It's a great coin, and US minted. It's all the stuff you want in a gold coin.
Yep. And y'all, I know when you watch these videos, they're doing urgency and you almost feel, can I get the products? But yet they want you to go and buy the product. So there's this line they're balancing. But I can attest that, again, I called Matt on the 12th of January and it was going to be delivered yesterday on the 26th. Okay. So if you don't, I personally, I wouldn't just go out there to some gold company like Ampex or whatever. I mean, go with Matt, go with somebody who's been in our community, who's worked with our friends. You're still very good friends with a lot of our friends. You still connect with all of them.
All of them.
And, right. And that's the person you want to go to. You want to go to someone familiar. I wouldn't, I would, watching those videos and just realizing the urgency and then wondering, oh my God, am I going to get my product? I got to do this quick, get this in my hand quick, kind of a thing. Cause I was panicked a little bit, but Matt pulled through and, it's going to be here. It should have been here, but yeah. So
there's no, not to interrupt, but there's no shortage just yet.
Right.
But there's longer wait times, and it's literally physically somebody just putting it in a box and packaging it up properly. That's the delay right now. But I could see in the next, could be weeks, certainly the next couple months, there's going to be longer and longer wait times to get this stuff. The mint is still producing at normal levels, which is good. I mean, we saw back in 2023 when we were working together, Kelly, we saw that the mint stopped producing silver eagles. They're capable of about, I think, somewhere around 8 to 10 million ounces a month of silver eagles. Really? That month, in March of 2023 and April of 2023, they were producing about 900,000. So, about 1/10 the production of what they were capable of. And that was intentional in my view. But what did we see at that time? We saw premiums on silver eagles go through the roof. I felt bad because some of the people at that time had bought silver eagles and they were paying, it was like a $25 spot price. They were paying probably $45 for a silver eagle. And then the price came down. Well, obviously those people waited it out. They're doing fantastic now, but it goes to show you that if the mint stops producing this stuff, you could see premiums on silver eagles go through the roof.
Totally.
So yeah, just to obtain that stuff. And we've always preached, and I think good on us, Kelly. Right. We've always preached American coinage. Why? Because that plugs you into the coming constitutional monetary system.
Yes, it's legal.
It's legal tender. If you buy, 100-ounce bars, there's companies out there, good companies that sell 100-ounce bars. Nothing wrong with it. It's 100 ounces of silver. But the problem is, right now dealers are paying $10, $12 under spot per ounce to buy back that bar. Whereas for silver eagles, a dealer will pay you, a reputable dealer at least, will pay you probably $4 or $5 above spot. So really at the end of the day, what's really cheaper? Is it the eagle or is it the 100-ounce bar? It seems to me that based on the buyback, the silver eagle actually winds up being the better value because you're also factoring in what you'll get for it when you try to cash that in.
Right. And that was one of the, because people would always ask, when do I, in the comments section,
Yeah, I get it all the time.
make
Yep.
a transfer? And the guy's like, look, you don't want to transfer it into the fiat currency that's going down, okay, that's getting devalued. You
Exactly.
want to get to the point where the gold to silver ratio is pretty low, right? And you can actually, like, for instance, take maybe 5 of those 100-ounce silver bars and go buy a house or go buy a legitimate business,
Right.
buy a piece of land, buy a real asset. None of this paper stuff. The goal is not to buy it, cheap, quote unquote. Wait till it gets to $1,000 an ounce and then, turn it in. No, that's not what I'm doing. You hold it. You hold it for the new system. And that's going to take a while to shake that out and to see how it actually, plays out. I mean, I think one of the states, what was it, Texas or Arizona, that actually has the law that says silver is like the legal tender or something. Do you remember that, Matt? We kind of talked about that.
Okay, so here in Arizona, Mark Fincham, who's a friend of mine, Senator Fincham, I've gotten to know Mark over the last year. He's a client of Verity Metals. He actually wrote when he was down here. He wrote the legislation to make gold and silver as money, and it's there. It's sitting there. It's just waiting to be. All they have to do is enact it. And his legislation is actually copied in multiple states: Texas, Florida, you name it, all over the country. And the idea is that, we, the people, we're capable of trading amongst ourselves without the oversight of government. If you need a product or a service, right, we can barter amongst ourselves. And that's what gold and silver really represent. So if we go back to a golden, and we'll institutionalize that system. I think, the pieces are coming into place. The last phase of it will be the redemption factor. In other words, it has to be redeemable at a bank.
Sure.
So I think when the banks fail, people are going to demand that banks have real assets on site. So it'll be like the old days. You come in with your gold and silver, and you basically load up your checking or savings account with your gold and silver. Now your bank, the benefit to your bank, and you as a customer of that bank, is now your bank has real assets. Right. It's sitting on real money.
Right.
Right. So maybe the good old days of bank robberies will come back.
Oh my gosh. It's all good. But here's another thing I just want to throw out real quick. And I've said it personally, okay? Of course, we have the depositories, and people do use that. But I even said back when we were doing the videos, Matt, just me personally, because remember, we talked about, you had strategies for people to put safes in their house, and you would, connect with them and kind of guide them through that process and maybe help them find a local safe.
There's my dog.
Company. They're adorable. A local company, to put the safes in. But for me personally, I'm like, look, these depositories, they're authorized by the same people who are kind of the banking system and everything. And I'm just like, for me personally, this is just me, is I want to have it, hold it in my hand, because I just don't trust what's going on out there. Now, I know you've worked with these depositories for many years, and there's a lot of the friends who have their money in the depositories, but that's another angle to think about. You need to think, do you want to actually have physical, acceptance of it, or do you want to store it? And of course, people with a lot more bigger money to invest, might be more beneficial for them to store it. I don't know, but you have to think of that in terms of the process.
So I feel good about the depositories. I haven't had any problem. One of the benefits of the depository is that it makes it very easy to trade on your gold or your silver, right, or whatever precious metal.
Right.
And and I totally understand the standpoint from people. Do they want to have their, in a lot of cases, somebody's retirement savings is their life savings. Do they want to have that in their house, right? God forbid a fire, right? Theft, burglary, whatever. So that can be, stressful. Hey, you want to go, come on, River. You want to go on vacation, to Hawaii or Europe or whatever. Hang on, let me just tell this dog to shut up.
Like he's going to listen to you. Will he?
And you can leave that in. I just had to yell. I didn't want to yell into the camera.
Is he going to listen to you?
He sees something in the backyard right now, so probably a pheasant or a rabbit. He's still young and distracted by these things.
Which one is it? The Labrador or the other one?
It's the lab. Okay. I got the
Okay.
Chihuahua right here. And anyway,
We digress.
Yeah, people have different thresholds, and really just on the subject of storage, you're really not supposed to store it yourself, right? The IRS has really come out and made it very clear to people that you're not supposed to have it in your possession. Now, if you decide to do that, look, we're a gold dealer. We'll send you your gold and silver, and whatever you decide to do with is up to you. And that's the basis I kind of have to work on it with people.
Right.
You're supposed, look, here's the middle ground solution. There's local depositories. We have one right here called Mountain Vault over on Cave Creek Road here in Phoenix. I store some of my stuff there because I go on these shows. I don't want to keep too much product here at home.
Right.
But the idea is that though, I could go to a local place, and granted, that's not true throughout the country. So in other words, if you live in Florida or Tennessee, for example, there's no depositories in Florida or Tennessee. Whereas I work with people, let's say in Spokane, Washington, there's several facilities. Idaho, there's facilities.
Interesting.
Right? It might be a 3-hour drive or a 5-hour drive, but you could get there on a tank of gas. And if you really needed to go access your stuff, you could. My feeling toward the depositories is that the white hats are in control. They're watching this stuff.
True.
They have these facilities secured. So I don't think anybody that's at a depository needs to freak out or anything like that. But it's true, if you can hold it yourself and you're willing to take that risk, because what would happen is, let's say you did, basically what we do is we create an infrastructure for you that allows you to get the gold and silver from your IRA shipped to you. What would happen is, let's say the IRS did come and say, hey, we're auditing you, Kelly or Matt, we're auditing you, and we want to see your gold and silver where it's stored. The worst case scenario is that it's not like you're going to jail for it, right? What would happen is they'd say, okay, well, you've taken distribution of your entire IRA. The IRA no longer exists, and you're on the hook for X amount of taxes. That would effectively be it, right? Okay. So I just tell people, I always have to advise on the side of be compliant, follow the rules, store it in a third party facility. But if you really want to store it yourself, who am I to tell you otherwise, right? I'll ship you the stuff. It'll come to your doorstep in however many packages. And what you do with it from there is up to you. But I like to offer the option because it gives people with different thresholds of risk and risk analysis. It gives them every option at their fingertips.
True. But again, that's specific to IRAs, right? That's one of your clientele angles.
Correct.
But there could be people who are actually just have savings and they want to buy it. So that makes sense.
And people, my silver and gold that's at the depository locally, that's not IRA gold and silver. I just, I go on these shows, and one of the rules for owning gold and silver is you don't tell anybody. Right. Right. And I've obviously broken that cardinal rule, and I have announced to the world many times over, not only do I own it, I sell it. Right. So for me, it's more of a security reason that I have to do it. Right. But, and there's middle grounds. I was working with somebody in a certain state that has in Washington, I'll just tell you, in Washington state, backwards government, they just put something like a 10% sales tax on precious metals purchases. What? 10%. Yep, 10%. So what a lot of those people are doing is they're finding out-of-state depositories to ship their gold and silver to, right? Or they'll just come down here to Arizona. They'll take a vacation down here because it makes financial sense. They can come down here, eat fine dining every night, okay, and they're still saving money based on what they would pay to the state of Washington, a totally corrupt and backwards government. Shame on the Washington government.
Totally. Do they go fine dining because you're bringing them out?
Probably.
The gift guy. Well, you bring up a good point about the Q team too, in terms of the depositories. I mean, obviously the Q team is in control of everything. We know that. This has been a slow awakening, all these different narratives, etc. So it would make sense that, they're trying to encourage people to get on this train of the great wealth transfer. So they would have the depositories. They'd have people protected by this point, of course, so you make a good point regarding that. So whatever people feel comfortable with, is what they got to do. So it's all good. But so Matt, this is what we're going to do. We're going to close with today's Nugget report. And as I promised, I'm going to play the rap that Tab has, his little Long John Silver comes in. So funny. And remember that guy's name is John Silver, and he goes long, right? He's saying to hold on to the silver, right? Not to short it, to hold it, right? Long John Silver. Tab, how'd you know that? How'd you know?
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
He's funny. So we're going to go ahead and end with that. And I look forward to our next Nugget report. Remember, friends, if you do call Matt or you text him, let him know that you saw all of this on the Nugget report.
Can I be honest? Well, can I be honest? I just want to be honest. Well, I might be out of my mind, 'cause I'm in my heart. Looks crazy sometimes. Showtime if you don't know, but don't call us loco. It's a locomotive. Trump train like we go. Even Kylie Minogue know. Every drop make an ocean, and there's a brand new dance. Kelly Ann do the locomotion. Gotta catch 'em all. Comms, everywhere it comes. Hot route, Dan got the ball. Don't doubt, gridiron eagle. And at the end of the day, this whole thing is making the Super Bowl look like a puppy show. And so when it's showtime, it's all we knows, and I told you so's. And I speak for myself when I say, stay humble, we're in it together. Even sometimes when that slogan feels like it's moving slow. Who got the rock? Don't ask Jeeves, 'cause it won't compute like NPCs. Looking for a sign, any question, got the answers inside. Call the love line, spine spiral to the sky. Break a hive mind, do you believe? And whether it's Isby's to eternity or the Long John Silver cord that will afford you the life you seek. The future ain't bleak. The future ain't bleak. And I must confess, I believe.